Well, hello there, beautiful. It's Kylie Patchett here. Welcome to the Wild and Finally Fecking Free podcast. I deeply believe that the years during and beyond perimenopause are a rite of passage. All of a sudden, we find ourselves on the precipice of a life transition where our brain literally rewires and runs out of fucks to give. We find ourselves shifting identity, no longer caring what other people think, and being invited to expand into new ways of being. Here, we share the real and raw stories from women who've been through deep midlife metamorphosis, taken a leap of faith, or broken the ties that bind us in patterns of staying small, stuck, and like our needs just don't matter. This is the midlife medicine you didn't even know you needed. Stories full of joy, despair, freedom, courage, and deep self-honoring. I am so glad you found us. Welcome. Ones. It's Kylie. Welcome to another beautiful edition of the Wild and Finally Fucking Free podcast. I have already been a little bit teared up before I even start recording with this guest, as has she. So I'm going to welcome the beautiful Cheryl Miethke. How are you, Cheryl?
I'm okay. Oh, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah.
Cheryl was sharing before that she feels a little bit fluttery in the tummy about going down this track, but we wanted to start with one. To me, this is the most powerful statement that anyone can ever say, particularly women, and particularly when we're talking about taking our power back. When I ask people what else they'd like to share, you wrote down, the biggest reason for doing this podcast is to let go of shame, own my story, and find my inner voice. I do not want to remain silent anymore. Holy wowzers in my trousers. Where do you want to start? What called you to come and share your story?
I guess for me, there's a lot of powerful institutions out there, like the police, there's Centrelink, there's child support, there's child safety, there's the legal profession. And really, even though they're supposed to be there to help, they're not helpful. And I guess I've come here because, even when we think about mainstream media and things like that, whose voices are being silenced and who's being heard. So it's usually some big agenda. So, but I think in this particular space, I feel safe because it's all women just like me. We're all on our own individual journey. And
we were talking before we started recording, there is such a beauty in sharing the times when we've had to make big, hard decisions. And I was saying to you, the resilience of the human spirit just continues to inspire me. Again and again and again, I hear the threads of women deciding for themselves that they're not available for something anymore. So when we open your story at a big fork in the road back in 2008, what was your current reality back then? It feels like a long time ago. Well, it is a long time ago in a lot of ways.
It is. Yeah. So I guess because I was thinking about that. Look, when you have children, you change and you become a protector for them. And I think when my firstborn, Ashlyn, was about 18 months old, the dad kind of picked me up one day like a sack of potatoes, and he's 6 foot, threw me over his shoulder. And, and I was trying to get out of that, but I couldn't. And Ashlyn was just screaming, "Mummy, mummy, mummy." And then I was thrown out the front door like a piece of trash and locked out. And I did damage my back then. I'm sure that's why I've got back issues now. And I was thinking about when Emily was born. She was 5 weeks old. It was Christmas Day. And I was breastfeeding. And he just went crazy over nothing as usual and threw something, and it just missed Emily's head. I think for me, when I saw my own, I'm raising 2 daughters and this is what they were going to grow up. I think this is what love looked like. For me, I thought this is not my story and it won't be my girl's story. So the first time approach, when it first happened, I mean, look, obviously there was other stuff too, like verbal and control and everything, but the first time I went to see a domestic violence centre and they wanted to do some couples counselling, which was quite interesting because the perpetrator just, does the blame the blame thing. But anyway, that was interesting. Yeah. And then the second time, or not the second time because there was probably lots of times, but that I rang a domestic violence, they told me to just pack. The problem with that was he was always home, so it was quite unsettling. And I just remember we had a spare room, and I just started packing things, and I just hoped to hell he did not look in that cupboard, that he left to go and do something, and I just packed us up and left. Yeah.
And you left. One of the things that you say in the questions that you answered was, I had no idea where I was going. I just knew I had to go. Yeah. And I'm going to get emotional.
Yeah.
First of all, honouring the fact that you're being vulnerable and sharing your story. And what's speaking to me at the moment is that strength of, there's a certain amount that I will take, but when someone puts my kids in harm's way, that is the tipping point, which ultimately led you to the decision to actually
go. Actually, I forgot something else. I actually, apparently, I had mental problems, and he suggested I see a psychologist, and that was really interesting because I did do that. Mm-hmm. But the first question the psychologist asked was, what brought you here today? Obviously, I said, well, my partner says this, and this about me. And then over the sessions, obviously, it came out that the reality of what was really happening. So, I guess that was sort of happening in the background as well. But that psychologist did call me a year later just to see what happened, So, yeah.
So you're squirreling things away in this spare cupboard, and there's a space where you make the break and you go. And one of the things that I was reflecting back to you before we started recording was this phrase that you said, it's been quite an arduous journey rebuilding from nothing, but in retrospect, it's a good place to start.
Because
Can you talk more about that?
Well, I think for me, like when I think about my experience, the only thing I had to lose was my children, and that was actually could have been quite a reality. I guess you just start from simplicity, for gratitude for every little bit of support that you get, people along the way, sometimes strangers, or just that support that just comes. For me, it just changed my whole mindset. And I've hung on to that because I can't speak for everybody's story, but when you hit that bottom, the only place to go is up, and there's something inside, I can't even describe it, but there's something inside that nobody can touch. I think when I first arrived at the refuge, and I did PTSD or something, I'm not sure. Yeah, and I was just fortunate that they had a place that housed me. But yeah, the night that I arrived there, or the night that I arrived there, I just remember throwing up constantly.
Stress can make you so sick, can't it? Like your physical body, particularly if who knows? I'm not a psychologist, so I'm certainly not going to say yes, you had PTSD or not, but that the emotion has to go somewhere, doesn't it? And so
and I think for me now, when that happens, because sometimes it does happen, I kind of look at it now as almost purging that toxicity.
That's what came to my mind as well.
Yeah, it's actually like a metaphysical thing.
Yeah, physically clearing.
Yeah, you've got to let it out. So, I guess most of the reactions we have, if we're aware, are normal under circumstances. Or if I feel what I'm feeling, and don't try and numb it in any way or distract myself.
How much numbing and distracting were around when you first had to make that decision? Like, how did you actually get through day to day? And actually, addendum question, which is pretty much on the same track. When you say there's something inside of you that can't be touched, do you feel like that's true for every single person on the planet? Is that a given, or it's just in some of us? Like, can't answer for other people, I guess.
No, I can't. But I think, well, it's always been there. It's just, it's your soul, it's your heart. It's there's something there.
The essence of you.
Yeah.
That someone can't steal away, no matter how controlled or anything else.
Yeah.
So going back a little bit to the identity piece, because this is what fascinates me. So at some stage during the journey of the dysfunctional relationship,
Yeah.
nicest way that I can describe that, I mean, really, domestic violence relationship, at some point there's a change in identity from this is okay or this will get better or whatever to no, I'm no longer available for that. When you look back at yourself, and it's what, 14 years?
Yeah.
14 years, far out.
I've been a single parent for
14 years.
Yeah.
Raising teenage girls, hats off to you, my love.
Yeah, I know.
In the trenches alongside you. No.
And they're strong. I'm really, they're not perfect, but who is?
No.
But I think I've managed to raise some really strong,
independent girls.
Girls, yeah.
Well, women.
Young women.
Really. Women. So what's the identity shift for you when you look back on 14 years ago?
I was so broken. I was really, really broken. Really. Because all that degradation and put down. And it's a daily thing. You're just walking around on eggshells. And you just, I can only say that I was just lost, really. And I think when you're at that basic needs level where, no house, no money, just nothing really, every day becomes a challenge. I don't think, I didn't even have internet access or, everything was really challenging, like everything. I didn't have the resources.
So now that you've rebuilt, and one of the things you said was it feels like you've done it like brick by brick, like literally, step by small step towards the reality that you have now. When you look back at the version of you then, what's the biggest shifts in the way that you see yourself?
I think I've probably self-love and self-worth. I don't want to ever feel that way again. I don't ever want to feel that way. And I think, and look, I'm really grateful for the journey because I realise that I have a power that I didn't actually know that I had. So I was disempowered, but then it became a gift, Yeah, it became a gift. And from the beginning, I've always read positive things or exposed myself, to, like, all along I've probably done that, and I'll never stop doing it, where we're always doing that inner work,
Yeah.
So everyone's your teacher.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah, like everyone. And, there's some beautiful people out there, and then not so much so, but they still leave you a parting gift, that you learn from.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you take with you. So,
yeah. It's all growth, isn't it? Like, really, when we come down to it, the challenge is growth. There's so much power in experiencing pain. And this is something that hearing these stories and getting to meet all these amazing women who every single one of them says, oh, no, my story is not that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, it is, because you've traveled it, you've learned from it, you've grown from it. But one of the big themes is there is so much power in, not that we want to invite pain in our lives. That's not what I'm saying.
I think, pain is actually a part of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, there is no one that is going to get through this life without pain. But pain and suffering becomes a gift.
It's a great expander, isn't it?
Yeah, because, for me, even though it's uncomfortable and, painful, you sit with that. And, I sit with that. And then and if it take, if I don't know how long I might go down for, but I always come back up.
Yeah.
And I think just reframing things. I'm doing a lot of reflection and making sure that I reframe it in a positive way.
Yeah.
So, but I think, you have to feel those feelings. I think you have to feel the hurt. And I think something that I'm learning, I didn't have it back then, but showing myself compassion and understanding and loving myself and saying, it's okay to make mistakes, or it's okay to feel this way or whatever. Whereas, before I probably used to be a bit hard on myself. I still probably do it sometimes, but I try not to be like that anymore. So if you want to talk about where I was back then and where I am now, yeah, I'm a bit lighter. I think. I don't carry such a heavy load. Yeah.
How beautiful is that concept? Oh, I've been talking a lot about how we want to feel with clients, and so many women use the word light or peaceful, but light is one of the most common ones.
Yeah.
And often it turns out that the most weighty things that we carry around are our own judgments on ourselves.
Yes.
And our own shit stories and our own limitations. And yes, they might be learnt from other places and spaces, but that feeling that we have to carry them around in this big bloody backpack weighing us down all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh.
Well, I don't need this. Toss it.
No.
You know? Yeah.
And we have a choice. That's, again, the common thread in all these stories is coming back to our power, making a decision, saying I'm not available for it, creating something new, as painful as it can be. But the potential, or even knowing that you don't want to be somewhere, is better than just surrendering to or settling to what is when you know damn well that you don't want it. And that's what I think.
I couldn't have stayed.
No.
Riley.
Absolutely not. No.
No, I couldn't have stayed because I don't think I would be here. I just was so low that I didn't want to live anymore. I just couldn't. I couldn't. And I couldn't leave the girls with him. So the obvious.
Thank God for your girls, hey?
Yeah. I'm proud of them.
Hey gorgeous, we interrupt this gold for a delicious invitation. If your whole body has been whispering more lately, more voice, more truth, more satisfaction, more clients of the soulmate variety, more cash, more you, then this invitation is for you. Potent, my sister mind is officially open. This is my high touch, holy fuck, I'm ready sister mind for rebels in good girl clothing who are done outsourcing their power and diluting their magic to fit into someone else's business formula. If you have been craving a space where your strategy, your voice, and your energy all get to be offered, honored, refined, and amplified, this is it. Inside of Potent, you'll get my eyes on your business every single week, copy mentoring, and that is for brand copy and content storytelling that turns your truth into client catnip, energetic recalibration that helps you unhook old learned limitation patterns, keeping you quiet, not being seen, not being heard, real-time, high-touch, one-on-one coaching that actually sees the bigness of your vision, and the kind of sisterhood that does not flinch when you show up in your full, messy, brilliant, phoenix rising from the ashes glory. This isn't surface level support. It's deep, potent, paradigm shifting work that changes who you are as a woman in business and a woman in life. We start in August. Early open access is open right now. For the month of June 2025, inside of this early access open doors period, you will receive juicy bonuses, extended payment plans, and access immediately to my entire library of storytelling gold. You'll find all the juicy details at kyliepatchett.com/potent. And we fill spaces, and there's only 10 of them, and more than likely only 5 by the time you listen to this, because by that time I will have offered them to the existing cohort, the beautiful original OG circle. We do actually take applications on a first come, first served basis. So come and apply, and let's get back to the magic of the episode.
Yeah.
So what do you, as a mum of girls, having gone through that sort of relationship, what are your What have you tried to instill in them, and no doubt a lot of this is demonstrating rather than teaching. I'm quoting the teaching thing, but what have you encouraged them to feel into or create for themselves in terms of healthy, functional relationships?
I mean, look, they have to learn for themselves. Like, I can
Mm-hmm.
offer advice, but yeah, to recognise when people are disrespectful, and that might be a friend that's supposed to pick them up and just doesn't show up.
Yeah.
And they're left waiting for hours, um, and how to handle that healthily, like to say, how she's feeling and the impact of that. But sometimes, they have to learn sometimes that sometimes not all people are your friend.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's all about the contrast, right? Often we don't know what we don't want unless we've served up a great example of it.
Yeah. And look, I've only had 2 relationships in 14 years, and I'm grateful for them too. Because and the most recent one, I think, really helped me to, it was good. There was good aspects, but it still held the mirror up to the wounded parts of me, that still need healing.
Yeah.
So I think it's a lifelong, for me, it's a lifelong journey. I don't think that ever stops.
Yep. Absolutely not. I think the more that we know, the more that the more we shed, the more we evolve, the more we learn, the more we realize we don't know what the flippin' hell's going on. And so it continues.
And I mean, not that you want to wish that you were 20 again, but like there's this approaching 50, there is this freedom, I think, and this wisdom that which I love. I love how I'm starting to feel about life and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think that's about? I mean, I've got my own theories, but why do you feel for yourself that there has been that shift towards, well, I guess recognizing your wisdom, isn't it? Because we've always had some sort of wisdom, but being grateful for it.
Yeah. Well, when I think about children, they're just so happy and free. And I work with older people every day, all at the age of 65. So it's almost like people revert back to that simplicity of a child. They've got all this knowledge, but again, the simple things, like it's the simple things but it's also about wishing what they could do that they can't do anymore. But then, some people will just continue to do what they can do. I mean, look, my children are nearly grown up.
It's a whole new world out there.
I know. And I realise, see, that's the thing. I mean, I've been in survival mode for so long. I feel like I have been just in survival mode, just trying to create a life. And it hasn't been easy. And I think the other thing too is not to compare, because then that creates, again, suffering. Because
absolutely.
Because I can't change anyone or anything. All I have control over is myself and what I can do,
Yeah.
And so you just sort of, I don't want to sound cliche, but, you kind of just work with the cards that you've got. Yeah.
And exactly, when you think about the things that you really, really can control, not the things we believe we can control, the actual things that we can control. There's very few things. Really, the only real thing, and this is why I'm just about to do a masterclass on coming home to ourselves, because that is ultimately the ultimate freedom, the ultimate ability to, and I don't like control, it's the choice of how to react, the choice of how to respond, the choice of what we're creating for ourselves, choice of what we'll believe, the choice to be compassionate rather than, the inner bitch in our heads, which I'm pretty sure all of us go through the stage of. But yeah, I don't know. The inner bitch, in my experience, has quietened down a fair bit since entering perimenopause. Maybe she'll come back and bite me on the ass. But I wonder whether such a big wisdom I actually was at a yoga retreat on the weekend, and I met a lady, and she was talking about also working with senior people. We start off as these carefree little people, need a fair bit of care, learning how to do the world. And then we get up in our heads and we, by the time we're in our 20s and 30s, it's all about, running around. And I'm talking obviously in general, but, you know, ticking off the to-do list, blah, 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 like doing life, being busy. And then on the other side, we start going back into the original, you know, stages. And it's the simple things. It's the joy of an ice cream in the sun. It's you know, that. And she was actually saying that her theory is that dementia and Alzheimer's is just someone actually basically making the transition out of their body back up to the stars where they came from. And I was like, I really love that idea, because it's like, we come here, we get in the physical body, we learn it. And obviously this is my personal philosophy, not, you know, no disrespect to anyone who has different beliefs, but yeah, we come in, we do our thing, we learn stuff, we unlearn stuff, and then we go back to the stars. Like, come back to the truth of ourselves.
And older people, I think that's another thing too. That's probably had a big impact, because I've been working with that particular cohort for almost 7 years, and you realise that it's really confronting. You realise your own mortality and how quickly things can change. So I think that's been really good for me, and people just remind you. I remember someone that must have been about 90 something, or maybe mid-90s.
Yeah,
I asked a question, something like, you know, what brings you joy or happiness in your everyday life or whatever. And the response was something like, well, I went and got a thick shake from McDonald's today, and drinking it, I didn't die, you know. And I thought, oh, my gosh, you know, so, you know, aging is really challenging, but the wisdom people have and that simplicity and appreciation for life, you know, I learned from that. So
that makes me think of conversations I've had with one of my friends in Sydney, Andrew Aspis, and we have often revisited the theme of enoughness, because I feel like one of the things that has been a big growth edge for me is not wanting to grow bigger or more or busier just because it's kind of the done thing. And I've got a bit of a rebel in me anyway, but my thing now is, what's enough? You know, the simplicity of having a beautiful, abundant veggie patch is something that really brings me a lot of joy. Living in a busy city in a big house with the extra car and the whatever does not give me joy at all. And so I feel like I'm going through my like 60s and 70s in my 40s.
Oh no, but I think
simplify.
But I think we're sold. I mean, this is just my opinion, but I think we are sold fairy tales. You know, like you know, when you think about the legal profession, for example, like Law and Order, or romance movies and novels, and you know, and then what success looks like. I mean, that's all. It's all a fallacy. It's not true. It's really what brings you joy and making time for that. And you know, like my life's pretty hectic, and I get up, you know, when it's dark, and I take myself down to the beach. I watch the sun come up, and that's how I start my day. Exercise is important because, you know, it's my antidepressant. If I don't exercise, you know, and it's not just that, it's the impact it has on my body. Like I've got to keep strong, like physically and mentally strong. So, yeah, I think everybody's journey is different, but you have to find what works for you, what brings you peace.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what brings you the feelings that you crave, because I agree with you. We have been, you know, when I used to do a lot of professional speaking, I used to tell the story of, you know, the 20-year-old me, and the 20-year-old me totally had bought and drunk the Kool-Aid and was like chief Kool-Aid cheerleader about the fact that I was going to get this nebulous feeling of happiness when I got, and I'm air quoting, a good job earning good money, and like climbing the corporate ladder. And so imagine my disgust in this whole picture when I got to 25 and I was, found myself, I'd done exactly what I should. I'd gotten a few degrees and I'd climbed the corporate ladder as a general manager of a company.
And you weren't happy.
And I remember sitting at my desk one night at about 8 o'clock going, what the fuck have I done? I have created everything that I was sold that would give me happiness, and I am the most unhappy I've ever been in my life. And I know that's a big statement at 20, I think it was 25, something like that. But yeah, since then it's like, okay, getting off track again. How do I want to feel? And one of my key things, this is why this podcast is called This is Freedom. Like, I just don't want to be, I don't want to feel limited. I don't want to be tethered. I don't want to feel tamed. I want to be free to create what I want. And one of the biggest things for me is lots and time and space. So that's
I don't have lots of time, but I'm doing things that are, again, it's just that brick by brick thing. I am building a house.
Exciting.
Yeah, I know, I'm supposed to be in before Christmas, but I'm not sure. The whole journey, that's been a 2-year process in itself,
Surrender.
Yeah. So, yeah. But I think for me, what did you say? You said something.
Oh, just the time and the space thing. But again, that's my version of how I want to feel, not necessarily everyone's.
Oh, yeah, but I want to feel that too, but I just make time. I make time, because if I don't, it's a hard day.
But see, that's still being in your power, because you're using your choice to create time for what's important to you. So seeing the sunrise, going to the beach, moving your body, like all of those things that make Cheryl feel more Cheryl.
Yeah. And I think for me too, nature tells us stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if you're just there, with the fauna and the flora, and at the beach or the sunrise, the moon, the stars, they tell you a story. And so it kind of brings you back to, it brings me back to who I am. It grounds me. So I have to do that. If I, God forbid the day I could never walk on a beach, and which, for people, I guess, in wheelchairs, it's great that they're now wheeling people down, putting them, because it's so important to have access to those
things. And inclusion. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. What would you say when you're saying nature grounds you and tells you a story? What's the insights? What's the story that you actually hear or see? However you I see stuff, but however you make pictures for yourself, what do you learn from nature? What's the stories?
Well, this morning, this is just really weird. This is weird. So this morning, I wake up at 3:00 and I took myself down to the beach. It was dark, and I'm walking along, and I was thinking about this podcast, because I'm an overanalyzer, overthinker, and I'm thinking, maybe I could talk about, how do you know which direction you should be going, and you've got that inner voice, and it'll guide you, and anyway, I was thinking about all that kind of stuff, and then this morning, so I was just in my head. I wasn't present. I was in my head, and then all of a sudden, and I've actually posted it on Facebook, I bent down to look at a shell. And then out the corner of my eye, I saw something, and I thought it was a dog shark. And it was about, I kid you not, hundreds of turtles, like hundreds. So I was there for about half an hour just observing, and it was just amazing. Like, it was so beautiful. But then when I came home, I thought about me walking along in my head. Nature grounded me. But then I thought about where I walk. Normally I walk in the other direction, and then I walked that the opposite direction.
Something,
so I made that parallel with the story going on in my head, and I think nature just tells you divinely perfect. It's as it should.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So many little turtles. You've made me want to drive to the beach, because I live like 2.5 hours from the beach, but I love the ocean. I haven't seen the ocean for a couple of months now. So that's my to-do list. What joy. And I think for me, when I'm in nature, I realize things like, everything grows in its own time. There's a season for everything. Everything blooms and then drops their blooms. Like, there's no such thing as being always in a a glowing, perfect state of beauty. Even the freaking moon disappears every 28 days and comes back. I know it doesn't disappear, but, it appears to disappear. And, the sun goes up, sun goes down. So like all this cyclical stuff. And I think one of the key things that I always remind myself, I've actually got a friend who's got this too shall pass on her, tattooed on her bicep. She went through something really, really big with her daughter. And yeah, she wrote this too shall pass. And that's what I keep on remembering. It's like when I'm full of joy and gratitude and bliss and love, this too shall pass. When I'm full of fear and bullshit stories and feel too small and too stuck and have no power, this too shall pass. Just as surely as the sun follows, its cycle. And I think understanding that nothing's permanent is a beautiful freaking gift.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's a cycle of life, and it will go on even when we're not here. But
Absolutely.
you will leave seeds, through this podcast. You're disseminating all these seeds that will grow into something, because this is coming from a real passionate, loving place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I actually had a realization today. Thank you for that, first of all. Thank you for reflecting back.
Yeah.
I realized that I have always been obsessed with stories. And finally, I'm actually doing something that's about sharing stories. I'm like, how has this taken me so long? But yeah, to me, it's that resilience and the inspiration and the just being real with each other about how hard life can be, but also how amazing life can be. And sharing our hearts with each other like that. Yeah, legacy is really important to me.
Yeah, and how lucky that, you have this going back. No one was doing podcasts, but it's giving, YouTube and podcasts and things, they're giving people a voice that might not otherwise be heard.
Absolutely.
And so it's an alternative reality to the one that's in the mainstream. Yes. And so we get a choice about what we expose ourselves to.
Absolutely. Oh my God, I've got so much to say about that. So we all have a choice of what we expose ourselves to and the environments that we swim in. So yeah, choose. But also be aware that if you're watching the mainstream media, it's being conditioned by someone with an agenda. So stop. Yeah. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse. I want to zoom back into something that you mentioned in your answers, and especially when you've been working with older people, because my dad was a lot older than my mum, so he was 55 when I was born, and I feel like one of the greatest gifts of my childhood was being around someone who already was 70 years old when I was a teenager. And yes, that created a lot of stress because, yes, very different generations and rights and wrongs. But the gift was this, the simplicity and the wisdom that comes from years on the planet. And so I feel like that was that was my environment growing up. And I'm very, very grateful for that. Something that you mentioned was that recently your dad passed away and you had realizations about some of the patterns that you'd experienced, perhaps. Can you talk to us a little bit more about that?
Well, I grew up, it was a little bit of not a little bit, it was a very dysfunctional household. And look, I love my dad, but 10% was lovable, the other 90%. And I've probably been somewhat estranged. I wouldn't say completely estranged from my parents. And I think, look, when my dad passed, like we did him justice. Like we really, I didn't come from a hurtful place. I'd been carrying that hurt my whole life, I think. And I could see the patterns in the relationships or even friendships, I guess. But people only know what they know. You only know what you know. You don't know an alternative. And I think that's important. Why, when we judge or criticise someone else, it's actually a reflection of who we are. And for some people that might be their privilege. And so I think it's important to just meet people
where they are.
And it's so nice when you meet people that just walk beside you. And Yeah, but anyway, when my dad passed, we still gave, a loving finale.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what it allowed me is to actually have a relationship with my mum, because she would have been married 48 years this year, but she was with him 51 years, and I'm just so happy that she can know. I mean, obviously she loves my dad, but or loved my dad, but she will know peace and freedom now.
Mm-hmm.
She is not in that dysfunctional space, like.
It's a long
Anyway,
time, isn't
yeah,
it?
and I
51
think,
years.
and I think for me, when he passed, I mean, I was in a relationship that had an end date anyway. A week later, that person left. I actually then, having that space, like that minute, the other person had left, and I was just sitting there in that grief. And I think what I started to correlate then, that I'd chosen, I choose people that aren't capable of loving.
Not available.
Not available. They don't have, and look, I'm learning now that it's no reflection on, well, it's not a reflection on my self-worth, but then I have to be one to set the boundaries and not tolerate things. But I think you've got to have space to be able to do that.
Well, you've got to be aware that that's what you're doing before you even.
I think for me, I know.
You do?
Okay. Because you get that feeling, that didn't feel good. And it's about guarding, or for me, guarding and protecting my heart. And so when I see the red flags, not to ignore them, not to see people as a reflection of who I am, but to actually see them for who they really are.
Yeah. I think as you're talking, I'm really aware of something that's been happening in my own life, which is, I don't want to say similar because I don't want to assume that I understand exactly where you're coming from, but some of what you're saying makes me feel into my relationship with my mum. And something that's coming up a lot for me at the moment, I feel like it's like right up in my grill, is setting boundaries around how much I will offer to care and support other people at the expense of myself, which is the definition of codependency. But anyway, again, I'm not a psychologist, so we're not going to go down that, therapeutic route in inverted commas. But when I said, because you weren't aware, that is actually where I am at the moment. I feel like I'm only just becoming aware of a really big pattern in my life that other people could see quite easily. But yeah, it's showing up in other relationships, like friendships. I've just had someone cross a big boundary for me in a friendship. And for the first time in my life, instead of actually just going, that's it, you're dead to me, and like walking away, never speaking to them again, which is how I used to handle not something like that, but actually go, hey, that's not okay. That's not acceptable. I'm not available for that. And if you continue to, treat me like that, I will not be available for this relationship. But I was not aware. And I'm like, how the freaking hell did that happen? I like to think of myself as pretty self-aware, but sometimes you're so stuck in the story that you actually aren't aware.
No.
Like it's so much how it's always been and how you've believed you always have to be that, it's like being too close to a tree and not being able to see it's a tree type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's actually true. That is true. Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering whether, if you were aware of it or not, because
I think it's there. But it's not. Because I can only speak for me. I can't speak for everyone else. I think I feel comfortable with what I know, and I think it's not until it really compromises something within me, then the shift happens,
It's like as you're talking, I'm feeling into the mental picture I have of the window of tolerance, which is, it's been all the rage for quite some time in therapy land, knowing where inside that window of tolerance, you've got enough capacity to respond, but then it gets to a certain level or layer and it's like, nah. It's like it's hit an electric fence or something. That's what it kind of feels like to me. It's interesting. Very, very interesting. When your dad passed and you had that sort of feeling around your mum, do you have siblings?
Yeah, I'm the eldest of 5.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
So I
So,
was parentified at quite a young age. So I've always been the responsible adult,
mhm,
and that's why when I look at this relationship that just ended,
mm,
it was the child, the fun child that came out. So I've
mhm,
always had to be, I've felt like I've had to be responsible all my
mhm,
life. Not
mhm.
saying I've been irresponsible, but that person brought out the child in me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
felt, and I think that's the thing, like we can look and learn and go, well, what things that were really, that I loved about that
Yes.
experience, but then what was not working.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, so I've forgotten the question. I've
I don't even know what the question was. Oh, I just asked about siblings.
Yeah.
I don't even know what my question was going to be. Yeah, it's interesting. Okay, so knowing that you've got 5 siblings then,
Yeah.
so when you say parentified, if you had to put a label, which I don't actually like calling it a label, but assign a sticky note to you as a kid in your family, what role were you assigned?
Parent.
How does that feel being aware of that?
I think I used to have a lot of resentment.
Yeah.
And look, as the years have gone along, I've probably, because I can't carry around that hurt and anger forever.
Mhm.
And
No.
so I've had to just process that and
Mm.
realise, because the only person I was affecting was myself.
Oh,
Carrying.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, it's about letting go. So I can't change it. So there probably was resentment. I didn't have a childhood like other people, and blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
but that's not. You can't live.
No, of course not.
Yeah.
Of
So
course not. And
yeah.
the invitation, I guess, from that point is if you, yeah, by definition, if your role as parent, you don't get to be the kid. It's like, what did my little Cheryl miss out on, and
Yeah.
how can I gift that to myself? Because
Yeah.
I think the greatest invitation to us in midlife is exactly what you're saying, to realize that our parents were doing the best that they could,
Yeah.
as do we
Yeah.
with our
Yes.
parenting. God
Yes.
knows I've made lots of mistakes.
Yeah.
But then to actually take responsibility for reparenting ourselves, it's like, well, what did I actually need? What was the gap? And letting go of anger and resentment, because
Yeah.
they're poisonous.
Yeah.
They
So I think,
hurt to carry around.
yeah. So I think for me, I'd love to be in touch with my inner child more,
Mhm.
and just to have that freedom. And
Mm.
I mean, I haven't got there, like, and I will get there, hopefully.
Mhm.
But but I've got to I'm kind of just on a bit of a mission. I'm still in survival mode.
It'll shift though. When you're
Yeah.
aware of it,
Yeah.
the universe starts to collude in your favor when you realize that there's something that you want to step into, expand into, or, experience.
Mm.
Um, I had, I had a moment at this yoga retreat on the weekend where we did aerial yoga. I've never,
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
yeah. So,
Is that swinging in the
yeah,
air?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yes, ish. So when I lived in Malini, my kids used to do circus, and the big long strips of what's called silks, which
Mm.
they use in the circus. So they used to learn that, and it used to terrify me because they, tie themselves up and then bang to the floor, but stop like an inch before the floor. So I wasn't able to watch anymore. I'd just be like, I'm dropping you at circus, I'm picking you back up, I'm not looking. But the aerial yoga uses the same sort of silks, but in a smaller version, obviously, and it's connected into a U shape, let's say, and you're suspended. But it brings out the play, that's for sure, because you're like swinging backwards and forwards and your legs are all over the place. And it definitely got us all giggling and sort of stepping into that play, total play. The lightheartedness was really, really lovely to experience and just go, oh,
I think,
yes.
yeah, so there was something, I don't know whether I heard it or read it, but there was something that you said about, because you ride motorbikes, don't you? I think you
Yeah.
were talking about that
Oh.
freedom. And I think, see, as kids, we do all that.
Mm-hmm.
We're in that space of just, and I think we forget. Oh, well, I can't speak for it. I forget. I forget. Yeah, I have to own
Yeah.
it. I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really grateful that because we had a bike before we had kids. So the first time we had a bike, we were like 22 and 23, say. I'm really glad that I had that experience when I was younger, because I think that already I would be, because I'm not a physically confident person. I definitely, like, I'm not the person that will throw myself down the ski slopes without knowing what the hell they're doing. I'm like, tentative. And I think part of that is not having experienced that freedom and just give it a whack like a lot of kids get to do. Well, again, I'm making generalizations. But anyway, that's my perception. But yeah, having been on a bike, that feeling of freedom has been locked into my cells. And so it's like, yeah, I don't care if I'm almost 50, we're getting another bike. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but we have a bike that's like a lounge chair. It's very comfortable. Whereas originally when we were in our 20s, it was a race bike, but that's all right. Yes, I think when you get to almost 50, you don't really want to be throwing yourself around like you're invincible. I think it would.
Remember, this is something. I think we all have to have an element of fear to keep ourselves safe.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, as long as it doesn't stop us experiencing what we want to.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
And that's a fine line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Where to next? Something that you said before. What's your greatest wish then if you feel into your mum not being in the same environment anymore? What's your wish for her to experience?
Just peace. Peace. And I think she's already there. Like, I'm not sure how long. Yeah, just peace. Yeah. And she can make all her own decisions, and she's probably a little bit lonely, but yeah, learning to live with herself.
Yeah.
With no one to answer to.
I think that would be really discombobulating after that many years, hey? Not learning to be by yourself, but learning to be yourself. Because even, I have a very happy marriage, and there's also still always considering someone else. So by definition, there's not so much compromise, because that sounds like a negative thing, but, you meet each other halfway. So, yeah, it's definitely not the same as being by yourself. Like little tiny things like, what are we going to eat for dinner? What are we going to, like, all that, One of the interviews I've already done, Heather, she was sharing, her husband actually left her, and she had a moment in the middle of the grocery aisle where she was like, I don't actually know how to shop for myself. I don't know how to shop just for my taste. And that was one of those big pivotal moments where she's like, oh my God.
Did I listen to that? Was that on? Is it?
It's episode 2. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I listened to it. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was one of those things. It's like, wow, it really, like what you were saying before, like it's a good place to build from, because anything is possible. Like if there's nothing that's certain, anything is possible. What a beautiful, beautiful gift to ourselves. All right, final question. For anyone listening who is on the cusp of making a decision about what they are and are not available for. Actually, you mentioned something before about, you said, no, your inner voice. What would you say to the ladies listening? Yeah, that are feeling that sense of, this is not right, how to guide themselves through a decision or a change of identity?
I just have courage. And it's not easy. And look, I don't even know how I've gotten to where I am, but I can't speak for all women, but I think as women, we have a really powerful intuition. Sometimes we don't even, logically, some things don't even make sense, but they always, and to listen to, when you listen, or when I listen to my inner voice like that, even though it might not make rational sense at all, it's almost like God or the universe has pushed me to do certain things. So not just that, I just mean just with anything, like, because so many times if I had have ignored that voice, there would have been dire consequences. Well, not another story, but when I was in the transitional housing, because you only get 6 months, so you go to the refuge and then you're in transitional housing. And I still had maybe 6 weeks or something left. And this pamphlet came in for a place for rent that was in the letterbox. And just something really called me to act. Logically, I'm thinking, well, I've still got
6
time.
weeks.
Yeah, I've still got time. Why do I need to start looking? Anyway, I contacted the real estate agent, went there, ran into one of the tenants, said, what's it like to live here? No go. Then I asked the real estate agent, I said, well, have you got something else?
Mm-hmm.
And she did. And I'm so glad I acted, because when I got that place, the day I moved in,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I'd been to the salvos and everything, they wanted to come and assess the place, and I had nothing to see what they could help me with. And I ended up through Good Life Church.
Mm-hmm.
They had sourced a whole heap of stuff like cots and beds and everything. The day that they came to deliver, they were there at the front door. Centrelink rang me to say all my temporary payments had been cancelled. The girl's father had distributed 38,000 through a family trust and loaned it back into the family trust, and then I was ineligible for support.
Right.
So had I have not listened to that voice, I would have lost my children, because I would have ended up at family court, no home, no money. How do I support them? And there's been so many occasions that I can think of where there was just this really strong push to do something. It didn't make sense. You just act. I've just acted. Well, not all the time. When I ignore it, well, consequences are there. But, I would really just encourage people to just really trust that push. And it doesn't matter if you ignore it, because you will learn from that experience.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So that would be my thing, just really be guided by.
Trust yourself.
Yeah.
I love that. Internal compass is something that, I never trusted that I had early in my life. I was very in my head, holy dooly, neck up living. And, and life introduced me.
Yeah. And I think you said something too about the stories that we carry.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily the truth.
No, it isn't.
Because we can rewrite stories, but then we have to reflect to see, well, where does that come from? Where have we learned that? And then you see it coming, showing up in your life. So then you rewrite it.
Yep, absolutely. I am a big fan of, catching the lies, telling a different story. And often it's so funny, because when you become I always like to say, like Sherlock Holmes with the stories in your head, like get out your magnifying glass. What's here? What's here? What's here? So often they're not even your stories. They're someone else's stories. They're even delivered in someone else's voice, or their generational beliefs, or whatever. I write them out, and I realize that all of these are lies. lies. Reframe, different belief system, and act from that space. And be aware, obviously, that every time you expand through something, there's a chance that you'll contract back, and that is part of nature, and that's okay. You get a choice to expand again. And that is as it should be.
Just have courage, and just, if something has to change, well, nothing's going to change unless you act.
Yeah.
And I think it's, loving yourself enough to say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing it anymore.
Thank you. I knew reading your answers it was going to be a powerful story. And as always, I never know where these questions are going to lead. Like, who knows where we go? It's like a choose your own adventure. But I always trust that what is meant to come out comes out. So thank you for showing up despite the churny tummy. And thank you for the turtles this morning, for giving you a little universal wink.
And I thank you for doing this. For me, I'm always devouring things, and for someone to, and women's voices do not get heard very often. It's always the male voices. It's the male motivational speakers and blah, blah, blah. Well, I just love that this is ours. As women, this is ours.
Exactly.
And, this is our chance to be heard and to share wisdom, and to feel that sense of belonging.
And there's so much healing in that.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much healing. People that have been interviewed say that was a really healing experience. But then I get every day I wake up and there's a new episode out, I will get messages, DMs, texts from friends saying, holy shit, that really, hit something in me. Oh, I get goosebumps every time I have these conversations. But yeah, this arena, or this, what am I going to call it? It's an environment, a collective, a community, whatever is being built behind the podcast. I'm just deeply honored to be, I feel like I'm kind of a little bit like a custodian. Like, they're not my stories, but they're like, I'm gathering them in a hug. So yeah, thank you. I really, really appreciate you turning up and being vulnerable. Also, just choosing to be seen and heard when it is very easy for all of us to diminish or make small the wisdom that we have. And it's just, I know you didn't have that, frame of like, oh, I'm going to come and be this wise woman. But just by sharing our stories, that's what inevitably happens. So thank you. So good to.
I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Hello, beautiful. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm just here to celebrate the fact that we have just clicked over 1,000 downloads of this beautiful podcast baby of mine. So funny to think, because it's 55 days or 56 days today since I actually had the idea and thought, yeah, I'm going to create that, and I'm going to share stories, and hopefully women will really resonate with all the messages. And you have resonated. You have taken the time to pop in reviews and messages and DMs to me just to say how inspirational all of these guest stories have been. And I'm so, so grateful that you're tuning in. And I'm just wondering if, like me, as we draw to the close of 2022, you're starting to realize that you are quite freaking tired. There's been a lot going on, right, on a global scale in our communities, breaking down of big structures in our society and conditioned belief systems or shared belief systems. And for a lot of people that I know, me included, a lot of stuff going on in personal lives, a lot of taxing, stretching stuff. And the thing is that I hear all the time that we've been taught that we need to keep pushing through. We need to push through to get anywhere. We need to push through the tiredness or the exhaustion. But I'm here to actually offer a different point of view. What if the reverse is actually true? What if the very thing we actually need most to settle our nervous systems, to help our bodies feel safe and our minds to be calm, is actually to rest more? Rather revolutionary, isn't it? I've decided, as a gift from me to you for the end of 2022, and as we cross over the threshold into a brand new year, to gift you a beautiful experience called Revolutionary Rest. Revolutionary Rest is a deeply relaxing and restorative yoga nidra experience. It combines body and breath to come into stillness and just to be. And it provides a beautiful respite from all the stress and the busyness and the obligation you might be feeling through the silly season. And I just really, really want you to be able to be gentle with yourselves. Be gentle. Remember that you are a precious, precious, miraculous being, and you need to be taken care of as well. So you will find Revolutionary Rest completely free on the podcast website at kyliepatchett.com.au. I really, really hope you enjoy it. I've just listened back to it myself, and as much as it is a little bit weird to do a meditation to your own voice, it is really beautifully relaxing. And it actually is including a few of the tips that I learned in my last week's training and next weekend coming. I've just been joining a beautiful lady in Ireland called Neve Daly, and she has a form of yoga called Instinct Yoga. And the qualification that I'm doing is all about yoga to support the stages of menopause, including perimenopause and menopause and beyond. And one of the big things that we've talked about is that a key for supporting ourselves in our physical, emotional, mental, spiritual health, everything, is to come to stillness and rest so much more than what we do. So I hope you'll take me up on my offer as a gift from me to you. Merry Christmas if you celebrate, and Happy New Year if you're listening to this in January. Have a beautiful, beautiful day. Thanks, guys. Bye.